My 10-year high school reunion is in less than a week. So for my video this month, and one of my last 3 videos, I decided I would discuss some of my little known Hayfield memories. But before I do that, it is only appropriate that I bring back one of my favorite pieces of headwear from my high school days. Let's do it. So for my first Hayfield memory, let's go back. Let's go way back. Hayfield was a secondary school, so I was there not only for high school, but for middle school. This is back before I was the Dos Milli Dos man, you understand? Way back to 7th grade, I considered myself a little bit of a badass, and I was known to get into fights all the time. This one particular instance, I was sitting there at lunchtime flirting with a girl, and a good friend of mine, JJ, wanted to get my attention. Instead of doing the mature thing and coming up to me, he kept throwing rocks at me. So I would ignore him, continue to flirt with the girl, and then finally he threw like a piece of brick that hit me in the back of the head. Like after I checked my head and I see him bleeding a little bit, like I just completely ignored the girl, and I was just like, where's JJ? I'm beating his ass. So he's giggling, he runs off, but I guess he forgot that we had homeroom together. So we get up to homeroom, he's sitting at the desk and he's laughing. He's like, no, and he didn't realize how serious that I was. So I pick him up. JJ is this small Hispanic guy. He's probably like 5'1" at the time. And I start ragdolling him around the classroom, just throwing him into desks. I like slap at him like, don't ever do that again. Meanwhile, the homeroom teacher, Miss Costello, comes in and she sees this. She sends both of us to the principal's office. So we get in the principal's office in front of Mr. Manuel, and both of us act like we are the best friends. I mean, we are friends, but we both act like we're best friends. We're like, oh, we were just playing, we're just kidding around. And Mr. Manuel was like, well, okay, well, for roughhousing, I'm going to suspend both of you for 1 day. Both of us got a 1-day suspension. I returned to Hayfield after my 1-day suspension. Once again, during lunchtime, we were outside playing football on this like green field outside the middle school cafeteria. One of the rules is don't check anybody into the cars. The cars are like lined up right on this green field. They also happen to be out of bounds. My team is a lot bigger than the other team, and the only way they can seem to tackle us is if they push us out of bounds. So they checked me into a car, and I ran my arm into like a rearview mirror of one of the cars. I was like, look, we already said the established rule is don't check people into the cars. We break one of these cars, they're not going to let us play football anymore. A few plays later, this dude, Deron, checks me into a car again. Again, I'm a bit of a badass back in the day, so I'm like, I'm whooping his ass. So I start walking up on him, ready to beat his ass, and another guy who I had a gripe with at the time, Derek, decides that he's going to jump in and start talking trash. In my mind, I was like, I was going to whoop Deron's ass, but I don't like you either. So he happens to get too close to me. He wanted to get face to face. I got him in a headlock and I just started punching him and punching him. One of my teammates on the Nova Hawks at the time, Brian, pulled me off of him, and Brian's like, look, you're gonna get suspended, stop. So we kind of talked trash a little bit more, ended up going our separate ways. So I get back to Miss Costello's homeroom. Keep in mind, this is just 2 days from when I beat up JJ before. I get back to Miss Costello's homeroom, and I overhear Denise come into the classroom saying, did you guys see Derek's face? What happened to him? I didn't say anything, but the next thing I know, Miss Costello is saying, Alex, you need to go to the principal's office. So I go back in there. Mr. Manuel is like, didn't I just see you the other day? And he suspends me for 3 days this time. Ultimately, the worst thing that came out of this is after beating up JJ, who was beloved, and beating up Derek, who was popular, girls at the school were not trying to talk to me at all. Alright, so let's go forward a few years. Now we're in high school. This is junior year of high school, so probably like 2004, 2005. I had just come off a very successful JV football season where I was a starting linebacker, I was a defensive captain, the team went 6-4. So headed into my junior year, I expected, especially with our 2 varsity linebackers both graduating, Maternick and Tristan, I'm expecting to be a starter on the varsity team right away. And out of the blue, the coaches decide to make Ali the starting linebacker, and I pretty much learned during the off-season workouts that I wasn't really going to see much playing time. I was going to come up to varsity, but I was mainly going to play on special teams. I wasn't about that. I put in a lot of work, I felt, to get the position that I was in, not realizing how much work was needed to get to varsity level starter. So after hearing the news that I wasn't going to play much, I decided, I'm not going to work as hard. So I stopped coming to every off-season workout like I used to do. I made the decision that I wasn't going to go to Fort AP Hill, which was our location for football training camp. Let me rewind for a little bit. I fucking hated Fort AP Hill. We had to go to AP Hill for my JV season, and the barracks are dirty. The coaches control everything you do, including waking you up at 2 in the morning to go run like it's legitimately military. And one of the particular nights, as I'm sleeping in bed after a tough 2-a-day, one of my teammates decides that he needs to open the window above my bed, but in actuality, he was trying to teabag me. This particular teammate was a lot stronger than I was at the time, so I just had to grapple with him and make as much noise as I could, and I ended up waking up some of my other teammates who told him to get off. With all that in mind, I was like, I'm not going back to Fort AP Hill. So I made up this story saying that I was going to Disneyland and my mom had already paid for the trip and there was just no way that I could get out of the Disneyland trip. So I skipped going to football training camp, so instead I stayed at home and played Counter-Strike on my computer with Fee while eating cornflakes and oatmeal cream pies, while the rest of my teammates went to AP Hill and struggled with cornfields and up-downs and all the rest of that stuff. So after the team returned to Hayfield, 3 weeks after the first day of practice, the trainer said that I never turned in the physical. So Coach Pugh pulls me aside and he says, because you missed AP Hill and because you practiced ineligible, he was going to suspend me he suspended me for half the season and I was banned from playing on varsity. So at first I was just like, Coach Pugh makes idle threats all the time. I'll keep going, I'll still play on varsity and I'll work my way on the field. And the first game of the year, I dressed, went to the JV game, and they made sure that I sat right there on that sideline. So at the time, I was struggling with my AP Literature, Miss Boffin's class. I'm sure many of the people watching this remember Grapes of Wrath from her class. I was struggling in AP Literature, and at football practice, I was pretty much just standing on the sideline. I knew I was never going to play on varsity. I was suspended half the year. I was like, why would I stick around for this? So I ended up leaving the football team. So senior year, I decided to come back, but karma decided to bite me in the ass. The team had lost a lot of talent thanks to the South County split. People were getting injured left and right, including myself. I tore my rotator cuff that year and missed 4 games that season. And due to injuries and the coaches just not playing people when other people were injured, a lot of people quit the team. By the time I returned from injury a month later, we only had 23 people on the team. We ended up going 2-8 that year, and we lost to the winless South County, our baby brother school. That was not how I want my football career and path to end, but you know what? I learned a valuable lesson. I learned not to be so entitled. I learned that I had to work harder to get the things that I wanted. For my final story, also during my junior year of high school, I decided to run for senior class secretary. I looked at my college application and I realized I didn't have any leadership experience on it, so I decided to run against the incumbent, Brittany, who had been the incumbent for 2 years going into that. And I was told left and right, Dukes, you have no chance, she's pretty, no one knows who you are, it's just a popularity contest, you're wasting your time. After speaking to Miss Platt, Miss Winterbottom, and Miss Lofton, who all said you have just as good a chance as anybody else, I decided to run anyway. So with the help from some of my close friends, Fee, who designed my flyers that campaign, some other friends of mine who were known for ripping down flyers off the wall, getting certain assurances from them that they wouldn't be ripping down my flyers. I ran on the campaign that we would be doing more interactive fundraisers like video game tournaments after school. I said, I knew I wouldn't be able to do this, but I said it anyway. I said we would get the vending machines behind the cafeteria turned back on during the school day, and I made a few other campaign promises. One of the other things I did is I studied our yearbook, learned everybody's name and face, so that way in the hallways when I would go up to someone, I could say, hey so-and-so, hey, I'm running for senior class secretary, and do my entire pitch. Kind of give that wow factor of like, oh, you actually know who I am. So our class was really large. We had over 600 people, and I pretty much memorized all the faces and names. I put a ton of time and effort into running for senior class secretary, but ultimately I was taking a back seat to the overall presidency between Cassie and Bob. Bob was running a few smear campaigns, and there was also this dynamic of, white versus black, where I wasn't the only black person running for a position. We also had Isa, we had Cassie, we had a few folks. But I was trying to stay away from the white versus black thing. I was trying to win the secretary on my own merit. When election day finally came, after school, Miss Platt called me and she told me that I had lost. Brittany had won again, and I had lost, she said, by like 6 or so votes, which is a pretty wide margin. So I was like, man, I guess, everybody was right. I shouldn't run at all. It was a popularity contest and I wasted a lot of time. But then the next few days I learned that Miss Congolo's English class, because everybody was supposed to vote during their English class, Miss Congolo's English class didn't vote because they had an exam. And the majority of my close friends and a few of my solid verbals were in Miss Congolo's English class. And that's not to say that I would have won senior class secretary, but maybe the margin wouldn't have been as wide. I have countless memories from my days walking through the halls of Hayfield. As I said before, my days as the Dos Milli Dos man, to the year where we had like 50 trailers outside because the school was under renovation, to seeing X jump the fence to get away from school security. Just so many fine memories, and I can't wait to meet and catch up with many of my old classmates at the 10-year reunion. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like. I have 2 more videos this year, and then we will be done with the 2016 YouTube videos. Thanks for watching.